She's your burden now. Those were my mother's exact words the night my sister left her 3-month-old on my doorstep and disappeared into the rain. She didn't ask if I was all right. She didn't look at the baby. She simply handed me a responsibility I never planned for and walked away. 10 years later, those same people pulled me into court, accusing me of keeping them apart. I sat there with a sealed folder they knew nothing about, listening to their effortless lies. And when I finally stood to speak, something shifted because the truth inside that folder wasn't only damaging, it revealed things they never expected. I used to think my life was small in a good way, quiet, steady, predictable. I worked long pediatric shifts, returned to my one-bedroom place in a calm part of the city, reheated leftovers, watered my plants, and fell asleep to the radiator hum. Motherhood was never something I pictured, especially not the kind that arrives in a damp blanket at midnight. But life doesn't wait for your permission. It simply appears and watches who you become. The night Elena vanished felt surreal. One moment I was folding laundry as a storm pushed against the streetlights, and the next I was staring at a 3-month-old in a car seat with rain dripping from the canopy and a small crumpled note tucked beside her fist. She looked tiny and fragile, her breathing soft and uncertain, almost as if she sensed she'd been left behind. My hands shook as I called my parents, hoping for any sign of concern. My mother answered, sighed like I was disturbing her, and repeated the sentence that stayed with me for years. She's your burden now. My father didn't even come to the phone. They hung up before I got another word out. Even a decade later, I can still feel the weight of that silence. That was when I knew no one was coming. Not Ross, who left 2 weeks later. Not my parents. No one. It was just me and a baby who had no one else. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I learned how to warm bottles by watching videos through tears. At dawn, I rushed to the store with Lily zipped inside my jacket because I owned nothing for a child. My life shifted instantly, and slowly, what began as obligation became love. What started as survival became commitment. Lily would grip my finger and look at me like I was the only steady point in her world. And maybe I was. People speak about chosen family as if it's a gentle idea, but mine was built on storms, hard nights, and whispered promises. For 10 years it held firm, until the day Elena returned. She didn't come back with remorse. She came back rehearsed. It was an ordinary Wednesday. Lily, now 9, was on the living room floor building a cardboard solar system and humming the way she did when she felt safe. My phone rang from an unknown number. I nearly ignored it. Ruby? It's me. For a moment, I couldn't connect the voice to the sister who vanished a decade earlier. Then the familiar tremble appeared, the one she used whenever she wanted something. She said she was in the city and wanted to talk, wanted to explain. She picked a cafe across from a quiet park, which she called neutral ground. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. Neat hair, light makeup, steady manner, nothing like the frantic girl from before. She looked put together. "I'm sober now," she said, fingers clasped, voice controlled. 7 years. I answered politely but cautiously. Then she said she wanted to meet Lily, if I thought it was appropriate, as if she hadn't given up that right years ago. I didn't respond at once. I weighed Lily's stability, her worries, and the nights she woke from nightmares whispering, "Don't let them take me." But I agreed to one structured meeting. Just one. The Children's Museum felt public and safe. Lily held my hand, quiet in a way she rarely was. Alina approached gently, almost calculated, as though trying to earn approval. When Lily said, "Nana is my real mom," Alina's eyes filled with tears. I wanted to believe it grounded her, but humility rarely lasts with people who rely on shortcuts. Over the next months, Alina inserted herself, weekly visits, messages about schoolwork, small gifts at our door. And Lily, generous by nature, slowly opened up. I didn't trust it, but I didn't want my fear shaping Lily's world. Then one night, after Lily was asleep, a message arrived. "We have something important to discuss tomorrow." Signed not only Elena, but Elena and Grant. Grant Dalton, her husband, whom I had never met. The next day, they sat across from me at my dining table, hands clasped, smiling like the outcome was already decided. "We want custody," Grant said evenly. Elena didn't react. And as I looked at Lily's crayons scattered on the table between us, something in me solidified. This wasn't reconnection. It was an attempt to take over. The word custody hit harder than anything Alina had ever done, including the night she abandoned her child at my door. I steadied my hands against the table. "You can't be serious," I said quietly. "We are," Grant replied, his voice smooth. He said Lily deserved a traditional household, a stable home, 2 parents, as if I hadn't been everything she needed for 10 years. Elena nodded with practiced calm. "You've done so much for her, Ruby. Truly. But it's time she comes home." Home, though Lily's real home was right down the hall with her drawings on the walls and her shoes by the door. I didn't argue, not because I agreed, but because Lily was nearby, listening. I walked them out with a steady voice and neutral expression they mistaken for weakness. Later that night, after I tucked Lily into bed, I found her curled up, whispering, "Don't take me." I sat beside her with my hand on her back, feeling her breath shake. In that quiet moment, something in me settled. Not a break, but a clear, final decision. I wasn't losing her. Not to Elena, not to anyone. 3 weeks later, the letter arrived. A formal custody petition, cold, stamped. My parents included an affidavit supporting Elena, claiming I blocked access and misled Lily about her heritage. None of it was true. I stared at the paper until the words ran together. These were people who had never even sent Lily a birthday card, suddenly arguing I kept them away. Sometimes collapse isn't loud. It's a slow, steady clarity. The next morning, I hired an attorney. Julia Hernandez had kind eyes, sharp instincts, and a steady voice. After reviewing everything, she looked at me seriously. "This isn't about reunion," she said. "This is control, and possibly money." "Money?" I asked. She nodded. "Their timing is off. People don't return after 10 years by coincidence. We should check what they were doing before they resurfaced." That's when Detective Harris joined us. Quiet, methodical, with a way of placing information in front of you like cards no one really wants. Within 2 weeks, he uncovered 3 things that changed everything. Grant was deep in debt. He had been searching for Lily's biological father for months. And the man Elena never named had recently inherited several million. Suddenly, their motives were clear. Elena's polished return, Grant's involvement, their urgency for custody. This wasn't about love or redemption. It was financial opportunity. Harris compiled documents, financial inconsistencies, online searches, messages between Elena and my parents showing they had been in contact for years. A decade of silence wrapped around deliberate betrayal. I no longer felt like I was breaking. I was preparing. And when the court date arrived, I knew I wouldn't walk in afraid. I would walk in holding the truth. The courthouse smelled of old paper and cold air, an odd mix that made everything feel more real. I sat beside Julia, palms damp, the sealed folder between us like a live wire. Every so often I glanced at the door, thinking of Lily at school, unaware of how far this situation had escalated. Then Elena and Grant walked in. Elena wore a soft blue dress, her hair styled in gentle waves meant to project innocence. Grant arrived in a sharp suit with the confident half-smile he used as a shield. Behind them, my parents took their seats, hands folded as if they were attending a quiet service instead of a hearing they helped create. When the judge entered, the room shifted. Judge Harriman, silver-haired with a calm expression, sat down, scanned the courtroom, and said, "Let's begin." Elena testified first. "My sister kept Lily from me," she said, her voice trembling at the right moments. "I was unwell, but I recovered. I tried to reconnect." She refused. She shut me out. Her attorney nodded encouragingly. "And your parents?" "They were heartbroken," she whispered. Ruby wouldn't let them see their granddaughter. A lie delivered smoothly. My parents followed, repeating the same claims. "She pushed us away," my mother said with a rehearsed sigh. "We tried," my father added. "She wanted Lily to forget us. Not once did they mention the nights I called for help, the birthdays they ignored, or the hurt they caused." Grant testified last, calm, polished, and calculated. Ruby's inconsistent schedule, limited income, and lack of a 2-parent home put Lily at a disadvantage, he argued. Elena and I can give her the stability she needs. The word stability hit harder than I expected. Then it was my turn. Julia guided me through Lily's real story, showing photos, school reports, therapist notes, and statements from teachers, neighbors, and doctors. Each document proved Lily's life was steady, supported, and cared for. Even then, the opposing attorney tried to weaken my testimony. "You work 2 jobs?" "Yes, after Lily sleeps," I replied, "to save for her future." "You're unmarried?" "Yes." "You rent?" "Yes." Do you believe you can provide what a married couple with a house can? Julia objected. The judge agreed, but the point wasn't the question, it was the implication. I took a breath. I provide what she needs. Safety, consistency, and care, the only things she has ever known with me. The judge watched closely, not cold, but measured. When testimony ended, she folded her hands. Does the respondent have additional evidence? Julia nodded. Yes, Your Honor. My heart pounded. This was the turning point. She lifted the sealed folder. May I approach? Proceed. The folder landed on the judge's desk with a quiet thud that cut through the room. Elena frowned. Grant straightened. My parents leaned forward. Judge Harriman broke the seal. Her eyebrows rose at the first page. She inhaled sharply at the second. By the third, her expression had hardened. What is this? She asked, her voice controlled. Verified findings from a licensed investigator, Julia explained. Financial records, communication logs, and legally obtained search history. Evidence that contradicted testimony given here. Elena's face paled. Grant's jaw tightened. The judge read in silence for almost a minute. Then she addressed Elena directly. Were you aware your husband has been attempting to locate Lily's biological father? Elena blinked. What? Were you aware that this man recently inherited a substantial estate and that Mr. Dalton began searching for him immediately after? Grant began to speak, but his attorney pulled on his sleeve. Elena's voice shook. I didn't know the details. The judge's tone sharpened. That is not what these messages indicate. My parents shifted uncomfortably. And Mr. and Mrs. Lane, she continued, turning toward them. Can you explain why your phone records show consistent contact with Elena for 3 years, despite your statements claiming you didn't know her location? My mother faltered. My father wiped sweat from his forehead. I do not tolerate perjury, the judge said evenly, especially in a child-related case. Julia placed a second stack of documents on the desk. Additionally, Your Honor, you'll find school counselor reports showing significant anxiety episodes in Lily, caused by fear of being separated from her primary caregiver. That landed harder than any financial record. The room went quiet. Judge Harriman closed the folder and looked at me. Miss Lane, please stand. My legs felt unsteady, but I stood. The court recognizes your 10 years of consistent, nurturing care. Lily identifies you as her psychological parent. Removing her would cause harm and is not in her best interest. My breath caught. Therefore, she continued, custody remains solely with you. A small sound escaped me, a quiet, broken inhale. Elena Morgan, the judge added firmly, you're granted supervised visitation, contingent on full compliance with court recommendations. Grant jumped up. Your Honor. Sit down, Mr. Dalton, she said sharply. Your financial motives are documented, and this court will notify the appropriate authorities for further review. My parents stared at me as if seeing someone unfamiliar. Court adjourned. The gavel struck once, clear and final. What followed blurred together. Chairs moving, low conversations, attorneys gathering their things. Elena approached slowly, eyes red, voice thin. I didn't know, she whispered. Grant, he said. I stepped back, not in anger, but for clarity. You had 10 years? I said. 10 years to be present. You came back for money, not for her. She didn't deny it. As I left the courtroom, sunlight came through the tall windows, warm against my face. I stepped into it like someone finally reaching the surface. My phone buzzed. A message from Lily's art teacher, a picture of her smiling while holding a drawing of the two of us. A family made by choice, not by blood or entitlement. I exhaled. We were safe. This time the truth had done the work. The weeks after the ruling felt surprisingly calm, like life was settling into its real shape. Lily slept through the night again. No nightmares, no fear at school drop-off. Her drawing shifted back to bright yellows and blues instead of the anxious grays from before. I met my parents once at a neutral cafe. No arguing, no scene, just a quiet distance that couldn't be undone. They wanted access. I set boundaries, supervised visits, clear communication, no manipulation. They agreed, though I could see them realizing their influence was gone. Elena filed for divorce from Grant quietly. She sent a brief apology without asking for forgiveness. I didn't give it, but I didn't close the door entirely either. For Lily's sake, I could allow something measured. Julia helped finalize long-term guardianship paperwork. Solid, clear, permanent. One evening, as Lily and I sat on our small porch eating ice cream, she leaned against me and asked, Mom, we're okay now, right? I smoothed her hair and nodded. Yes, sweetheart, we're more than okay. For the first time in months, the future felt open and ours. Some families come from blood, others come from choice, commitment, and every quiet promise kept when no one is watching. Lily and I are the second kind, and after everything, we made it through. If this story stayed with you, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever had to protect someone you love from your own family, you're not alone. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story.